Morning, it's 9 a.m. Time to call to order the February 22nd, 2024 meeting of the Oklahoma City Airport Trust. Our first item is to approve the minutes of the January 25th, 2024 Oklahoma City Airport Trust. Is there a motion and second? And the item passes just in time. Next up on the agenda is the director's report.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. We've got a couple of things I wanted to highlight for this month. First of all, our January passenger numbers. We had another increase. We had 296,000 passengers in January of 24. That was a 3.78% increase over January of 23, which is at 286,000. So continue to see that moving up. I wanted to highlight an item on the agenda today that's kicking off a new venture for all of us, and it's the approval to go out for bids for our federal inspection station. So that's the space that is available on the lower level of our addition that was completed a couple of years ago. And so this construction package then will go out and the space then would be finished so that it can be occupied by Customs and Border Protection, which then that staff will then be able to clear international flights. So that project will be underway soon and project to be finished by the end of the year. And then we're currently in conversations working with airlines trying to attract that new service. So that's a milestone for this community. And so step one in that milestone, and looking forward to that. Wanted to highlight something else that we had this week as an opening, but then just look back a little bit on what's happened over the last couple of years. So this week we had a new restaurant open at the airport hatch, which has a number of locations here in the community, and it opened up there right next to gate 18 at the airport, and the space looks great, and we've had great response already from our customers. But I think more importantly, what this kind of wraps up the development program that's been underway for the last couple of years with the restaurants and gift shops. But I wanted to just go back and highlight and recognize, what's happened. And so when all this started, Mark and Scott and others back in 2020 were going out for proposals to replace the current program that was there. And the timing was challenging because it was March of 2020. And that's when COVID impacted, and what they were faced with was all of a sudden the proposing companies didn't know what the future held. So what are we going to do? So want to just highlight what Scott was involved with and helped, and Tiffany and others on staff, where they had to first convince Paradies, which is the company that we have, to stay and develop their retail program. But then more challenging was to convince them to actually take up the whole program and do the food and beverage also, which had not been the plan. But with what happened with COVID, of course, it was scrambling and figuring out how to salvage everything. So, and we got a nice note from Pat Wallace, who's with Paradies, just acknowledging that this kind of wrapped up the whole program. But so really, kudos to our staff at Oklahoma City who pulled that together, and to Paradies LaGuardia, our operator. For them, this was a trying time. They didn't know if they were going to have a business, 3 or 4 years ago. Yet they committed to Oklahoma City to continue or to develop the retail program and take on the food and beverage. That's a huge undertaking, and so we've got to the finish line on that, and so just wanted to acknowledge everyone for their efforts on that.
And I would say that you had an agreement and kudos to the whole team, but you did that seamlessly. In talking to a number of people and that I've run into in the general public, never knew those behind-the-scenes things were happening, and that's the way it should be. So,
Yeah,
So
yeah.
good job.
It is. It is. So just great result from an uncertain beginning of all of that. I did want to highlight a couple of the things that was in your meeting packet, and we put together a public parking facilities profit and loss statement for the second quarter of fiscal year 24, which would have been essentially the October, November, December. We've been tracking that because our parking rates went up in September of last year, so we were curious to see how things were going. And so we have the numbers that we've reported, and we've seen an increase in revenue, but we also had staff look at the activity because we were interested to see if it impacted our parking activity, and it did not. So the parking activity was a little above that same time period. So it seems that that parking change had the desired effect. We're seeing more revenue, and it hadn't impacted negatively the demand for that product. So
Outstanding.
I think that's all I had for updates at this point.
Okay. Thank you very much for the report. Next up is Will Rogers World Airport.
Mr. Chairman, so first item is A, and that is professional services contract with Alfred Hall Monahan Morris for new parking garage. Item B is supplement 3 for lease amendment with Mustang Fuel Corporation. Item C is amendment number 1 for program management services agreement with Kirkpatrick Program Management. Item D is Amendment 10 to the management contract with First Transit for shuttle bus operations and maintenance services. E is change order 1 to construction contract with W.L. McNatt and Company for headquarters building envelope repairs at Mike Monroney Aeronautical Center. And item F is plans and project manual to be advertised for bids for federal inspection services facility build-out. And item G is plans and project manual to be advertised for bids for LED street and parking lot lighting at Mike Monroney Aeronautical Center. H is memorandum of agreement with Transportation Security Administration to update or modify certain projects at Will Rogers World Airport. Item I is resolution ratifying the actions of the Director of Airports for approval of a sole source purchase with Weatherby Electric for airport parking access and revenue control system. And item J is resolution ratifying the actions of the Director of Airports for approval of a rental of a temporary generator for the Thomas P. Stafford Building at Mike Monroney Aeronautical Center. And K is resolution authorizing the purchase of 2 shuttle buses from Creative Bus Sales.
You've heard the request for approval for Will Rogers. Is there a motion and a second? And the item passes. Next up, we have Wiley Post Airport.
Item A is final acceptance of a project with Libra Electric for terminal building electrical rehab and backup generator. And item B is an assumption and agreement for PWT Hanger Unit number 2103.
Okay. You heard the request for approval for Wiley Post Airport. Any questions? Is there a motion and second? And the item passes. Next up, we have Clarence C. Page Airport.
Mr. Chairman, first item A is a lease agreement for Block 3, Lot 9. Item B is a lease agreement for Block 9, Lot 8. Item C is a lease agreement for Block 6, Lot 7. Item D is a lease agreement for Block 1, Lot 5. Item E is a lease agreement for Block 5, Lot 7. Item F is a lease agreement for Block 6, Lot 10. And item G is resolution ratifying the actions for approval of a software service agreement with 1200 Aero.
Okay. Heard the request for approval. Are there any questions? Is there a motion and second? And the item passes. Next up, we have general.
And that item A is professional services contract with Park Hill for facilities maintenance engineering services agreement.
Okay. Heard the request for approval. Is there a motion and second? The item under general passes. Next up, we have easements.
Item A is an easement for 4442 Newcastle Road. Item B is an easement at 14120 South Meridian Avenue. Item C is an easement at 2808 Bates Avenue. Item D is an easement at 4005 Southwest 27th. Item E is an easement at 7141 Northwest 80th Street.
Okay, you heard the request for approval on easements. Are there any questions? Is there a motion and second? And the item passes. Okay. Next up, we have requisitions, a resolution ratifying the actions of the Director of Airports in approving requisitions previously paid, and B, a resolution approving requisitions dated February 22nd, 2024. Is there a motion, a second? And the item passes. Are there any comments from trustees?
I do have a comment, real quickly, if you don't
You
mind.
have the floor.
Yes. I just wanted to say this is my last Airport Trust meeting, and I've really enjoyed my time that I've spent on the Airport Trust, working with everybody, staff. And as you know, I'm like the biggest cheerleader of our airport out of anybody. And I absolutely love it. And anytime I fly somewhere else, you know, I'm always doing the comparison. And I got to tell you, Will Rogers World Airport is a fantastic airport. Now, if we change the name to International, I don't know. But, you know, Will Rogers World Airport, it rolls off your tongue. It's different than all the other airports. I'm just saying, I know you guys will do what you think's best, and I totally accept that. But I love Will Rogers World Airport, and I appreciate the staff of the airport so much. It's just, the operation there is just, it's fantastic. And if you don't think it's fantastic, just fly to a different airport, you'll come back and go,
It's
you know, I
fantastic.
love this place. So anyway, thank y'all very much, and I appreciate all the service up here, everything you guys do, and thank you to staff as well. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And Todd, we really appreciate your service. He stepped in a couple times for me, and I appreciate that, and we wish you well on your endeavors. Are there any comments from staff?
Chairman.
Yeah, did you have one?
He had a question.
Who's going to take Todd's
You? No.
It's Councilman Matt Hinkle is going to be appointed by the mayor to take Todd's spot.
I don't know that, has that been announced?
I don't know.
So, and that, we'll wait and see, but we'll do that.
Yeah.
I still like my nomination. All right. Are there any citizens wishing to be heard? With that, we are adjourned.